if you press on the chat button, on the more.
Down below, if you see
Yeah.
where your chat is, where the screen is, there is something called reactions there. If you press the reactions, you will get a thumbs up or the claps. Just do it, all of you, please, once. Go into your screen. Go to your screen, and down below where there are the buttons, there's one button called reactions.
Yes.
Please show the thumbs up there so that we know you've seen it.
Yes. Great.
Yeah.
So whenever anyone, whenever you want to give these, please do it. It will be a good motivation for all our speakers. Now I would request Mrs. Renuka Prasad, Honorary Secretary, Indian Cancer Society, Delhi, to say a few words.
Good evening, everyone. When I say everyone, I really mean everybody around here who has taken the time off to join us in the last of our webinar series, Enigma of Cancer, which is to demystify cancer, as you can see it written behind the compere Rita Bhalla also. I hope we have been able to demystify some bits of it and try to make it a little simpler of the kind of cancers that we have addressed, starting with the breast cancer, the head and neck cancers, and the lung cancer, and now today the gynec cancers. We hope you're going to find it interesting and take back some lessons from here, some learnings from here at the end of the day, because this really is one of the best things and the biggest things that ICS does, which is conducting awareness programs. And this is an awareness program to try and make you understand much more of cancer, which is really an enigma for everyone. So I take this opportunity to welcome Naveen Kshatriya. He is a secretary trustee. I welcome Rumana Hamid, who's also here. I've just had a cursory look at everybody through. Now, if anybody's joined after that, I'm sorry, I'll have to just do the acknowledgements and welcomes and maybe just thank them later towards the end. Then I'm very happy to see Dr. Sareen representing our managing committee here. We have Kaki, that is the Cancer Care India in full form here. We have Dr. Ghosh with us. We have Renu Sehgal, Shubha Mudgil. There's Dr. Chaturvedi, and I'm sure many, many more who may have just joined it after I have started my welcome. So I will not take much more of your time. I think by now we have been able to tell you some of the activities that Indian Cancer Society does, the foremost amongst them being awareness, screening, which is at an hold right now, but our CDC, that is the fixed address, is still functional, and anyone who's attending the webinar is being given a free checkup to have that there. Besides that, we are doing our awareness programs, which you can see. This is one of them, being conducted by Cancer Sahyog, the emotional support group, about whom Rita Bhalla will talk much more later on and tell you what exactly we are doing in the emotional support group, Cancer Sahyog. Not taking much more of my time, I'd now like to request Jyotsna Goval, our Vice Chairperson, who's currently residing on a holiday, on a vacation in London, to come and say a few words about the seminar today. Jyotsna?
Renu, thank you very much. Quite honestly, I have to remind myself that this is a holiday. It seems like it's been the most hard-worked holiday I have ever had, but it's great fun. So thank you for involving me. I just was looking back and thinking to the days in, I think it would have been about 1998, 1999, when at one of the awareness talks, a very dignified, knowledgeable lady said that I have heard about cervical spondylosis, but how on earth do you get cancer in your neck? So we decided at that time that we needed to do much more in terms of awareness. And of course, I hope this audience, at least, or everybody knows that we are talking about the uterine cervix. Cervix being the neck, she was absolutely right, but we were not talking about the neck below your chin. We are talking about the neck of the uterine system and of all the various gynae cancers that will be addressed by our doctors. In 1999, we also took a very major decision, which was to have a regular program which we called Pap Test Delhi. It was our effort at adding to the Millennium Goals of the Indian Cancer Society. And we have run this program every year since 1991. And we're coming up to the 21st year of celebrating it. So what do we do in Pap Test Daily? We cannot afford to say that we will screen every single woman in Delhi. So we write letters to all the gynecologists. I think we have about 400 on our list, including the MCD hospitals. And we ask them to offer the Pap test or the cervical screening to everybody of their clientele at their usual rates. We are not dictating any rates. But if anyone cannot afford it, please to send them to our detection center where we do a free screening for anyone, any woman who comes. And it's not confined to just doing a Pap test. We do the complete works, the X-ray, the ENT, everything. And it is done free of cost through the month of November. So this is our Pap Test Delhi program. I'm very happy to say that it has run without interruption for all these years, and God willing will continue the same way. So while I have an opportunity, I know Renu and Rita will be doing their thanks, but I want to thank them. I want to thank Renu for taking the lead in doing these webinars. I want to thank Rita as the Director Sahyog for pushing forward for a webinar series in place of our regular seminar. And of course, as in everything, I want to thank Team Delhi, because if it was not for the team's efforts, and I'm saying team efforts, none of our programs would ever be a success. If we have been doing any of these programs, if we are making any little dent in the awareness and in the screening habits of Delhi citizens, it is because we have this wonderful group of men and women who join us year after year after year and work together with us to do that. I mean, just look, in this simple webinar, we have 6 doctors, 6 senior oncologists of Delhi who are participating. We have 3 influencers who have participated. We have survivors, we have caregivers. So I'm really proud, Renu, of what the team has been able to achieve. And I really want to make my thanks to you and to the team there. Well done. Let's do it all the time in the years ahead.
Thank you, Jyotsna. I think Rita.
Yes, thank you so much. Now, I'd say a few things about Cancer Sahyog, since I'm the director. We visit 15 hospitals in Delhi NCR region. So we have a large number of volunteers who have had personal experience with cancer. They may be survivors or they may be just caretakers. And we train them very well before they go to the patients. The patients and the doctors really look forward to our visits. We visit there, we give them emotional support, we counsel them, and we even form a link between them and the health workers. So it's really a very satisfying, good thing. And the patients really feel very motivated. We motivate them to continue with the treatment, to change a bit of their lifestyle. We tell them all the healthy habits, and this is how we help them. So now I'd like Colonel Tomar to please show us the slide. The slide you see on your screen has the list of donors and also the bank account details of Indian Cancer Society, Delhi. We help out a large number of patients and pay for their diagnosis, treatment, and rehabilitation. So please help us help them. Your generosity can save lives. Any help or donation, no matter how small, is much needed and will be deeply appreciated. Every year we help a large number of patients. We help them, like I said, with the treatment, with the diagnosis, and even rehabilitation. The bras and prostheses are given to ladies who've undergone mastectomy. So this is how we help the patients. So thank you very much. Finally, the girls have started talking and voicing their gynae concerns. Come, let's see what they have to say.
I have a granddaughter who's 9 years old. I've heard about a vaccine for girls which is safe and effective. And they say it keeps you away from many viruses and infections. But I'm not too sure. I'm very confused.
मैं बहुत परेशान हूँ। मुझे फिर से ब्लीडिंग होने लगी। अभी 10 दिन पहले तो क्लियर हुई थी। मैं बहुत घबरा रही हूँ। कहीं ये किसी बड़ी बीमारी का संकेत तो नहीं?
My cook is in her mid-20s and she has 3 kids, the eldest one being 8-year-old, and she's had 2 miscarriages also. So I just wonder at that age, she's been through so much of trauma. So is she susceptible to any major disease in future?
मेरी मेड ने मुझे बताया कि उसका पति बहुत शराब और सिगरेट पीता है और उसके बहुत सी औरतों के साथ शारीरिक संबंध भी हैं। उसे डर है कि इस कारण उसे कोई बड़ी बीमारी ना हो जाए। मैं उसे क्या सलाह दूं?
मेरे 15 साल पहले मेरा मेनोपॉज हो चुका है और अभी रिसेंटली मेरी फिर ब्लीडिंग हुई है। तो ये कोई मतलब मुझे इसका ध्यान रखना चाहिए, डॉक्टर से पूछना चाहिए, ये कोई बड़ी बीमारी का कोई खतरे का निशान तो नहीं है? ऐसा क्यों हो गया 15 साल के बाद?
My friend is having heavy foul vaginal discharge, bloating, pain in her lower abdomen and fatigue for the last 15-20 days. I have never had such a problem. Is it a disease, infection, or just poor hygiene?
This is about my friend's mother I'm talking about. She went very late to the doctor, and as a result, her disease has spread. Medical science and doctors are very positive about increasing her lifespan. But what about her quality of life?
What we just saw are some of the common gynae concerns that women world over shy away from. They tend to mention it to a friend or a relative and may not get the right advice always. Sharing my own personal experience, when I had a sudden episode of bleeding, I immediately rushed to the doctor. This helped me to get my treatment on time, and here I am living my life to the fullest. Cancer is normally curable when it is caught on time. So girls, we must get talking. Let's be aware of all the signs and symptoms. Let's be aware of our own body to notice even the slightest changes. Let's be aware of ourselves. Let's consult the doctor immediately and thereby be safe and healthy. Today, we have a number of renowned panelists, and Dr. Rama Joshi, an oncogynecologist, will speak to us first. Dr. Rama Joshi is Director and HOD of Gynae and Oncosurgery at Fortis Memorial Research Institute at Gurgaon. She is also trained in robotic surgery. She has won numerous awards and is extremely active in spreading awareness and providing cancer care. Over to Dr. Rama Joshi.
Thank you so much, Rita. And I think I'm very much impressed, and I would like to congratulate the Cancer Sahyog for coming up with such a wonderful annual seminar. I think I have experienced it earlier also, and I'm really very much impressed the way you look into the extending rather the help to the patients. And I think I'm rather associated for last many years, I would say, with Cancer Sahyog. Renuka, Mrs. Renuka, Jyotsna ji also, I think I've heard number of times. And also there are few actually volunteers who had been working with me and I really admire them a lot. That is Mrs. Rashmi Vora and also Kiran. I think they are quite actually regular with our hospitals, and we do get, you know, the number of times the discussions about whatever the problems the patients do face and how really we are taking it forward. So I congratulate you for this wonderful and very interesting seminar. It looks like what impressed me right at just a minute before, I was just going through and the problems which were raised by many women. Those are really the issues, the way you have projected, I'm really impressed. And I would like to answer the questions, which I think based on my topic today will be of help to them. I'll definitely take care that I answer them. And I think we do have Dr. Manas Biswas here. He will definitely be answering the questions related to that of the cervical cancer and vaccine. So with your permission, if I can share the screen.
Yes. Yes.
Please unmute yourself, Ramaji.
Have I not unmuted myself?
No, we can hear you now. We can hear you now.
You can hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
So actually, the talk given to me is that what every woman needs to know about ovarian and uterine cancer. I bring greetings from the Fortis Memorial Research Institute, Gurgaon, where we have the dedicated department of gynec oncology, and we have a dedicated oncology in general, where we have the multi-tumor board disciplinaries, and then we have the tumor board meetings, how we can do the best for these patients. And also we are focusing on to the awareness as well as the early detection programs for the gynecological cancers. So to start with that of the gynecological cancers, what are gynecological cancers? And this is the area I agree with Mrs. Rita to say that yes, actually gynecological cancers have not been addressed much except the cervical cancer. We know about the breast cancer because I think the breast examination is the easiest. Anybody can go for the breast examination, but not majority of the women like to go for the gynecological examination. And that is why maybe that and majority of the women, I think you must have also noticed, they would not like to go for the gynec evaluation, and they would like to rather go for just the imaging and come up with that of the imaging report, even when they have some problems. So gynecological cancers are really presenting a challenge to all of us. And why it is so? Because the gynecological cancers in the women, they are the ones which are the most common. And cervical cancer being the most common gynecological cancer of the women of our country, these are the cancers that actually develop within the reproductive system are gynecological cancers. When it originates in the cervix is known as cervical cancer. That means it's not the cancer of the neck. And I very much, I think, agree with Mrs. Jyotsna. Actually, this was a question asked to me on even Doordarshan. Whether it is the cancer of the neck, exactly the same question, which was in the, I think, Swasth Bharat. This was a question asked. So it is not the neck, it is this cervix, which is the lowermost part of the womb. The cancer from here is the cervical cancer. And when the cancer develops in the ovary or originates in the ovary is the ovarian cancer. When it originates into the body of the uterus and the lining of the uterus is the endometrial cancer. And generally, you know, this gynecological cancers are the example where the cancers are preventable, means cervical cancer is preventable, vaginal and vulvar cancers too are preventable because the causative is the HPV. I think you will listen from Dr. Manas about this. And on the other hand, the ovarian cancer presents a lot of challenge to us. Why it is so? Because actually the mortality from the ovarian cancer is very, very high to that of the endometrial cancers. I think these are the most curable cancers when they are diagnosed in the early stage. So on the whole, you will find, and rather we understand that when we diagnose the cancer in its early stage, they are curable. It is thought that once the cancer is diagnosed, it's a dreaded disease, they are not curable. It is right in a way because we are looking at the scenario where the majority of the cancers are being diagnosed in advanced stage. And once the cancer is being diagnosed in advanced stage, of course, the cure rate actually minimizes and we are not able to cure. And sometimes we have to really think that we have to extend them only the palliative care. So to begin with, the ovarian and the uterine cancer, during this talk, we shall be talking in brief about what is the burden and how the trends are changing in of the gynecological cancers in India. What are the risk factors of this ovarian and the endometrial cancer and how we can reduce the risk? What are the common symptoms which really every woman should really be looking at so that we can be wiser, we are more aware, and then definitely we can act in time. This is what we want so that the early diagnosis can be made. And after diagnosing the cancer, we can give them the optimal management. What optimal management we can give in order to achieve the best results and how. These are the basic things I think which we all must know about all these cancers. When we look at the scenario globally, you will find that the cervical cancer, uterine cancer, and the ovarian cancer, these are the three gynecological cancers are the among the, you can say, the 10 cancers of the women globally. And the mortality of the ovarian cancer is comparatively the highest one. Looking at the burden of the ovarian cancer globally, around 3 lakh women are diagnosed of the cancer ovary. Out of these, more than 1,84,000 women die of this cancer. And this is the 7th most common cancer of the women globally. Whereas in India, about 45,000 women are diagnosed of this cancer every year, and 19,000 women, rather more than 19,000 women, they die of this cancer every year. This is the 3rd most common cancer after the cancer cervix, and of course, the cancer breast being the most common, cancer breast and cancer cervix, we have this ovarian cancer. So you can see that this high mortality of the ovarian cancer really presents a challenge to all of us. How we can reduce this mortality and how we can really come over the change, you can say, come over the change because of the diagnosis in the advanced stage of the disease. And it is predicted that the ovarian cancer globally is going to increase by say 47% by 2040. And in India, it is going to increase actually very significantly. And that is the thing that is presenting most of the challenges, rather the challenge of ovarian cancer further increases over the coming period of time, how we can do the best for these patients. Looking at the changing trends of the gynecological cancers in the country, you can see that the last 2 decades have shown that there is a fall in the incidence of the cervical cancer. And this is mainly because of the awareness and mainly because of the preventive programs. And actually, we do not have, you can say, the proper cancer screening program in the India, that is the national screening program, but it is through the NGOs and the opportunistic screening as it is going and maybe from the state to state. So the cervical cancer can be seen that yes, it is reducing, but looking at the uterine cancer is increasing. Ovarian cancer is also increasing in the population-based cancer registries, thus presenting a challenge to us that this is the time that we must devote for actually knowing more about these cancers too, so that we can reduce actually the deaths occurring because of the ovarian cancer, and we can diagnose these cases in early stage of the disease where the proper management can be really extended to the women, and we can give them the good quality of life also. So ovarian cancer, actually ovary has got the different parts. Actually, it is the surface epithelium of the ovary, and also it has got the stromal components. It also has got the germ cells. So ovary basically will have three types of the main cancers. One is the epithelial cancer, which arises from the surface of the epithelium, and it also can arise into the fallopian tube. There are serous carcinomas which arise within the fallopian tube and not the ovary, but it presents on the ovary as that of the ovarian cancer. And also the germ cell tumors and the stromal tumors. Now, these germ cell tumors and the stromal tumors, they are actually diagnosed in very early stage of the disease, and they have a very good prognosis, and the cure rates are very high when they are managed very optimally. But actually, it is this ovarian cancer, that is the surface epithelial ovarian cancer, this is the cancer which presents a challenge. And endometrial cancers, they arise within the endometrium. So actually from here, naturally, based on the stage of the disease, this cancer has the tendency to spread. Once it originates, then it has got the tendency to spread to that of the region. And from there, it can metastasize to the different parts of the body, even to that of the lungs. It can metastasize to the liver, or ovarian cancer can metastasize, as well as the endometrial cancer can metastasize to that of the peritoneal cavity. Based on that, the staging is done. So naturally, the more localized the cancers are, we are likely to have the greater achievement or greater success rates so far as the cure is concerned. As I said, these are the two types of the cancer, the stromal and the germ cell tumors. They are diagnosed in early stage. So of course their cure rates are high, but look at this epithelial ovarian cancer. In majority of the epithelial ovarian cancer, majority of the women, it is being diagnosed in advanced stage when it is already having metastasized. So basically what makes us think that how we can catch these cancers early? It is important for us to be aware of the symptoms. Every woman must know what are the symptoms of the ovarian cancer. Then only I think we can be, we can be watchful, and then we can take the proper action. As we look at the symptomatology of this ovarian cancer, it presents with that of the varied symptoms. And these are very vague symptoms. There is no particular specific symptom for that of the ovarian cancer, that is epithelial ovarian cancer I'm talking to you, which is presenting the challenge to us, most challenging cancer. So they usually present with dyspepsia. They have indigestion. They have a feeling like bloating of the abdomen is there. And when these symptoms are there, I think the patient tries to ignore these symptoms, thinking that it could be because of the GI related. And 2 to 3 months are passed, the patient is taking either antacids or something, and then majority of them, they even present to that of the GI physicians. When the GI physicians go for the ultrasound, they go for the endoscopy, they come to know that, oh, there is nothing in the GI, but what you are suffering is there is a tumor in the ovary. And then basically the patient is being sent either to the gynecologist, or when the gynecologist examines and basically feels that these are the suspicious of the ovarian cancer, then these patients are being referred to the gynec oncologist. So they come to the gynec oncologist either straight when they have the suspicion of the cancer, or the GI physicians refer. And then based on the stage of the disease, of course, the treatment is decided, and it is always, you can say, the multidisciplinary approach of the treatment is given, whenever we are considering the best for these patients, because majority of these patients present to us in advanced stage of the disease, and we may have to actually consult the medical oncologist for the chemotherapy, because the treatment in this kind of a situation, of course, along with the surgery, can be chemotherapy will have to be included for these kind of the patient. So you can imagine the number of the months passed with that of the symptoms, the symptoms being ignored. And it is only when one suspects, then only the diagnosis is done. So the diagnosis is very much delayed. So if we have any of the symptoms, and some of the women may also suffer with that of the irregular periods. Now periods are irregular, but there is no problem to the patient. So patient will not come forward for any examination or any kind of the checkup. Any kind of abdominal distension, patient again actually correlated with that of the GI symptoms and all. So these are the factors which are going to be increasing the risk, and these are the factors which will be the protective factors. The spread of the disease is mainly the peritoneal, and the kind of the surgery or the treatment involved is very extensive in these patients, where we go for the complete surgical cytoreductions. And this is the surgical advancement where we go for the heated intraperitoneal chemotherapy. And we can see that when these patients are being managed by the GYN oncologist, the survival is far superior than when they are managed by that of the gynecologist. And this is the recommendation as per the guidelines also, that that's how these patients can be best managed. And based on this, actually, then we come, the challenge today is the early diagnosis of the ovarian cancers. And the diagnosis starts right from that of the complex ovarian mass, where we have to establish the diagnosis on the histopathology. And high risk patients, those who have the genetic high risk, they also require to go for the opportunistic screening with that of the ultrasound and also the CA-125, and they have to be under the care of the GYN oncologist. So I think these are the main issues with that of the ovarian cancer, and that's how we can manage them the best. For the uterine cancers, our challenges are that whenever there are symptoms of the abnormal vaginal bleeding, whether it is irregular or heavy, or postmenopausal vaginal spotting, or the abdominal discomfort, there may be a chance that it may be ovarian uterine cancer. So they should come and consult for these symptoms. But sometimes these patients do not have any symptoms, and they are diagnosed with the thick, you can say, endometrium on the ultrasound. And the high risk for the endometrial cancers are mainly the lifestyle related, like diabetes and obesity. These are the ones which increases the risk. And if suppose the patient had the breast cancer earlier and is on tamoxifen, the chances of increasing risk for that of uterine cancer is very high. So when we know that these are the uterine cancer risks, and we can see that some of these cancer, you can say the risks are very, very common between the uterine as well as that of the ovarian cancers. And there is no definite screening for ovarian cancer of the endometrial cancer. And these can be picked up on the increased thickening on ultrasound, that is the transvaginal ultrasound, endometrial biopsy. And this is going to basically establish the diagnosis. And based on the genetic mutations, we also have to include the screening for the other cancers, like that of the breast cancer and also the colon cancer, especially if the Lynch syndrome history is there. So it is only the 3 steps. What is important is for the prevention of these and for early diagnosis, especially of these lifestyle cancer diseases, we should maintain the healthy weight, and we should have the good healthy diet, and also we should go for the exercise. If suppose when you go for all these 3, and along with this, you can control your blood sugar and blood pressure, you can prevent the uterine cancer. And this is what is the message which I mean to say everyone should really take away, that we can prevent the cancers to some extent. The lifestyle changes, of course, that improves the focus on the quality of life and the management. And that's how even the targeted surgeries have played an important role in these cases as an advancement. So we are fighting out with that of the type of the treatment we should be extending to these patients should be more targeted so that we can improve the quality of life. We can give them quality of life by extending the robotic surgeries. That is very true for that of the endometrial cancer patients, where the patients are more obese, they are diabetic, and the morbidity is very low, and the patient can walk out of the hospital the very next day. So there are advances in the treatment, but what is important is that the early diagnosis is the key to the success of any cancer. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rama Joshi, for addressing so many of our concerns and queries. That was an excellent presentation, very useful and extremely educative. Thank you once again.
Thank you.
Keep your faces to the sunshine and the shadows shall fall behind. That is what sunflowers do. The radiance of our next speaker reminds me of a sunflower. Join me in welcoming the very beautiful and talented actress, model, author, and mother, Mrs. Sonali Bhendre Behel. Sonali has very bravely journeyed cancer and will share her experiences with all of us today. Welcome to you, Sonali.
Hi, lovely to
Hello.
be here, and it was quite amazing to hear what the doctor was saying. It was just taking me back to the journey that I had been through. So, yeah, that was very, very well put, and I wish I knew so much about it a little bit before I went through this journey. I feel my journey would have been a bit simpler, and what you said at the end, that early detection saves lives, is so, so, so true. And, you know, that's the only message I want to always keep getting across. Early detection saves lives. So well said. Yeah.
That's why at ICS, you know, we do a lot of awareness programs.
Yes. It's lovely. That's amazing.
Should we start?
Yes.
Okay. Cancer and its treatment tests both physically and mentally. It's very important to stay strong and away from negativity. Your wonderful hashtag one day at a time and hashtag switch on the sunshine. Without doubt, it reflects your positive approach. We would really love to know more about that.
Well, it was when I heard the diagnosis, it was so unexpected, and it was such a huge shock that it was like we didn't know how to deal with it, and we were like, what is this? Is it true? I mean, there were times when I was like waking up and thinking I'm in a dream, and I'm going to wake up and it's going to be a dream. I've pinched myself thinking it's going to be a dream. And then you realize it's really not a dream. And then how do you deal with it? And there were a couple of reasons. I did not want to be a victim. I didn't want to be looked at with sympathy. That was definitely something I didn't want. And that meant that, you know, I was like, I want sunshine around me. You know, I don't want people treating me and mollycoddling me and looking at me with pity. I want sunshines around me. And that's why it was like, do I want to meet this person? Is this person switching on the sunshine for me? No, I don't want to meet the person right now. I need to be in a space where the sunshine is on. And hence the hashtag switch on the sunshine. I didn't mean to be rude to anybody, or it was not that I didn't want to meet that person per se. But at that point of time, the need for me was to put myself first, and which meant that that energy or that kind of talk was pulling me down and would pull me down, and hence I don't want to meet this person right now. There was nothing against that person per se, but at that point of time, that was the need of hour for me, and hence switch on the sunshine. So it became like, you know, am I switching on the sunshine? She's switching on the sunshine. Is he switching on the, or is this event switching on the sunshine for me? So unless that didn't happen, I didn't really kind of get into that or didn't meet that person. So yeah. And one day at a time, you know, is something that's applicable so much even today. When you don't know, and when something feels so much larger than life, and it just feels like, how the hell am I going to deal with this? Sorry for my language. But then you just say that, you know, what am I going to do? And it just feels too overbearing. And either you can just kind of get crushed under that weight and just go down, or you can say that, you know what, let me not think about that whole big picture. Let me take one day at a time. And suddenly when you break it down into one day, getting through that one day is not so hard. It's more like, let me just get through today. Let me just get through today. And suddenly, while you're thinking of just getting through that particular day, days just pass by and things are behind us. So though I know one should have goals and one should look at the bigger picture, but sometimes in life, a bigger picture can be scary. It can be overwhelming and it can paralyze you. To get out of that paralysis is how I started using, let me just get through today. Let me just get through today. And hence one day at a time.
Wonderful. I really think this is a very important thing that you said. And once we go back to the hospitals, to our patients, I think we'll be able to give them better support now. I'd like to ask you, the diagnosis of cancer and the whole process, it affects your perception, and the uncertainty alters your thought process and priorities. Has there been any transformation in you?
Yeah.
Please tell us about that.
Oh yes, I mean it was amazing. It was amazing, the clarity that comes in when you have limited time. To be very honest, there are times now when I feel like, oh my God, I want that clarity, because I feel like I'm losing that clarity. The moment you have limited time, suddenly things are so clear. You're looking at things in such a way that, like I said, there's immense amount of clarity about things, about what you don't want to waste time on. It can be relationships, it can be, whatever you're doing, it can be conversations, so many things. A lot of, if I'm allowed to use the word, a lot of the BS, the bullshit gets cut out because you don't want to be, you just don't have the time for that. And that is one thing that I wish and I want to hold on to, even even though I've passed that phase now. So there are times when I sit back and I feel, oh my God, that clarity, was it a dream? Where did it go? Why can I get it back? I just do feel that a lot of times, and I do want to hold on to that. So now the quest is to kind of hold on to that clarity, because there's so much that you can do when you have the clarity, and there's so much that you stop wasting your time on, and you do what is genuinely and truly meaningful to you, to your family. And I think that's what is important. And that, I think, was one of the biggest things that was a takeaway for me from there, holding on to that clarity.
That's really nice. And you also said in one of your interviews that fear no longer has a place in your life. Please tell us about that.
Yes, as time passes and as pandemics come in, you start getting fearful again. But like clarity, that was another thing. I was fearless at that time. And the last time I was so fearless, I remember, was when I was a teenager. You know how as teenagers, you're fearless because you have all the energy in the world and you really don't have the experience that will tell you this can go wrong, that can go wrong, etc., etc. So you are only gung-ho and looking forward to it, and you think you can go to the moon and back and everything is possible. So that beautiful feeling of fearlessness as a teenager that you have was something that I kind of touched on in that moment, because it was when the situation is do or die, you don't have that many options. So then you have this much time, and then you just start getting fearless about the decisions you take at that point of time. And it was wonderful to do that.
Yes. And as a mother, basically from my own experience, I used to tell God, you've given me children. I'm not an animal who throws off the children after a few months or in a couple of years. So I want this life. I used to really beg him for the life so that I'm there for my children. How did you feel as a mother?
Well, when a lot of times everybody says, oh, you've been so brave and you've been so courageous. Yes. I don't think I was brave at all. Like there are certain things that I became very fearless about. But in my approach to what you were saying, I was very sure, I was not fearful exactly, but I was very sure that I did not want to die. That I was very sure that I wanted to live. In the positive way, I would keep saying that I have to live. I have to live. My son is too young. He needs me still. Yes. And then there were times, and where I would look at my husband was very young when he lost his father. And I've seen how tough it gets when you lose a parent early. And I said, you know what? I don't want my son to go through that. And hence, I really have to be here for him. So I remember having this conversation with one of my friend's father who had come in and, was like, what is the point? I mean, talking about it and, fighting for it so much. And I remember saying that, what, there is a difference, because maybe when I get to a certain age, I might feel that, yeah, fine, I've lived a life, I've done. But right now, the position I'm in, I feel I have more to give back, and I don't feel I have completed my duty. And I think I need to be there for my child, and hence I have an immense urge to live. And I'm not saying that this is what it will always be. God forbid, a few years, 20 years down the line, or whenever, I don't know the time, but it depends from time to time and from position to position. I might come to a point where I might say, what, I've had a good life, I've done all of this, hence I would like to opt to go away gracefully. Yes. And you know what, no harm in that. So it depends at what stage of life you're in, and that at this point of time, this was my need, and hence I kind of was like you said, as a mother, I wanted to live for my child.
Yes, that's always there. Doctors, like what we discussed in the beginning, doctors have time and again emphasized on the need of early detection. Our topic today also, Girls Let's Get Talking, is all about this. So what's your advice to women about this?
However educated we are, and however, it's just our conditioning where we put everybody and everything else before us. And that, I think, is something that we really need to look at ourselves and tell ourselves that we need to. So if our body, what happens most of the time is, because I remember as a child being told that stop it, you have to be tough, you have to learn how to bear pain. How will you go through childbirth if you can't bear this much pain? I think all of us here as women have heard this sentence as we are growing up. Am I right?
Yeah.
So that is the thing, that what happens is that in doing that, I felt in being, I'm so tough, I can bear it, and I can lead a normal life, and I can do everything. I kind of swept what I was feeling and what the signals my body was sending under the carpet. I didn't pay attention to it. And had I detected my disease earlier, I would not have had to go through this kind of treatment. I would not have had to go through a point where, they say, you have 30% chance of survival. Because I was at 4th stage by then, and I needn't have reached that stage. Yes, there are some cancers which you can be at that stage, and they're different, but different cancers are different. And in my case, and like you're talking about, where most women are concerned, early detection can save lives, and it's very important. And the only reason we don't go through early detection is because we don't have the dialogue, we don't have these conversations, we feel shy, and we don't want to go and get checked up, and we feel that, for this little, I can't keep going back. What will they say, that, you can't bear so much, oh my God, such a drama queen. We all have all these notions because we are conditioned like that, and we think of all these things and we don't go to the doctor. But that's where we are wrong. We really need to listen to our bodies, and we need to go, because if we detect it early, we can save physical pain, emotional pain, time, money also, very, very important. It needn't cost us the kind of money it costs eventually to save our lives, because it can be done in a smaller, quicker, and less painful way.
Yes. And one more thing that women should give importance to themselves. Like in India, generally we maybe the center of the family, but we are not looking after ourselves.
I think it's all over the world where women are concerned,
yes.
because, we are conditioned that way. And I think that will take a long time to change. And I'm not blaming anybody or saying, that's the way society is. But now that we know, these are the conversations we should have with our sisters and mothers and, friends, daughters, nieces. These are the conversations we should have, because now we know better. Earlier, we didn't know better. Now we do.
Yeah, in one of our awareness posters, we have the picture of the whole family in black and white, and we have the women in red. And
Nice.
We say, give importance to yourself. And because, if you are fine, the whole family runs well.
Absolutely.
One woman falls ill and the whole family goes for a 6. 10 people can't come and look after the family.
That's true.
So a small advice to the women in the end, how to look after themselves, and a little bit about the pandemic, how you're dealing with it, and how...
Oh my God. It is very, very tough, because what we are not realizing is, I mean, I think we are, but again, like we're talking about early detection where pandemic is concerned, I think the conversation should be about our mental health, because I think by the time this pandemic gets over, whenever it does, we don't know when, we're going to have a pandemic of mental health. Because personally, I would say that it was when, you know, when I mentioned this to one of my friends and my sister, even I was caught by surprise when I said that, oh my God, you know, what I was going through cancer was easier than what I'm going through now. And I stopped myself and I said, why did I say that? Why did that come out? And I realized that during cancer, what I was going through was a lot of physical pain. There was mental pain, but there was happiness around me in the support system that I had.
Yes.
But right now, everybody is going through it. There is no support system in that sense. We have to be supporting each other. And this is more mental. And I do feel that, you know, the mental pain is more difficult than the physical pain, because, you know, that is the key. What I was going through physically, I could get my mind to become strong. I could use the tools to strengthen my mind and use that to overcome my physical pain. But when you go through your mental pain, you have to use the same mind to get over that mental pain, and that's difficult. So I feel this is really difficult times, and I think we all really need to not think we are being drama queens. If we feel low, if we feel like, oh my God, I'm not, whatever it is that we are feeling, believe it, listen to it. And I do feel that it's okay to pick up the phone and say, I need help, and, you know, talk to someone. And it doesn't have to be a professional counselor. There's no harm at all in going for that. And I think, like, I went through it when I was going through my treatment. I felt I needed it. You need tools. You know, what they can give you is tools to deal with what you're going through. But a lot of times, if you can just pick up the phone and say that to your best friend, to your sisters, to your mother, or if you feel like your friend is distracted or your sister is just not herself, instead of saying, okay, let me give her space, I feel we should say that I want to give you space, but do you want to reach out? Are you ignoring something? And, you know, just kind of probe a little bit without being too pushy, but we should probe a little bit. And we can form that support system for ourselves, you know, as friends and sisters and women together.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Sonali.
One more thing.
Yes.
That, you know, Cancer Sahyog, what you do is for caregivers also. And I would like to add that we all talk about the patient, but none of us talk about what the caregivers are going through. And they're going through so much. And the fact that you are supporting the caregivers is so special, because they all think, oh, gee, the patient is going through this, but the caregiver is going through equal amount, and yet can't, because the caregiver at that time is thinking, how can I talk about this right now, even if I'm frustrated? She's not well. Like my husband and my sister, who were my caregivers, I could see they were going through that. They went through so much with me. And so having this kind of a support system for caregivers and counseling for caregivers is very, very, very important. So thank you for doing that. I'm so happy to know that you do it.
Yes. Thank you so much, Sonali, for taking out your precious time today and walking us through your journey. You are a wonderful human being, and keep motivating and inspiring us. God bless you.
I would also just like to add, I want to thank Mrs. Rashmi. And, you know, she got in touch and she got me onto this. And then I started reading up about you guys. I really love what you all are doing. So, Rashmi ma'am, I can't see you, but thank you for inviting me and giving me an opportunity to know what work you all are doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. God bless you.
If you're in Delhi, I'm paying one of your trips. It would be wonderful if we can actually meet you. That would really be the best.
I will do that. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sonali.
Thank you. God bless.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Our next panelist is Mr. Umang Vohra, who is the MD and Global CEO of Cipla. He has tremendous experience in leading pharmaceutical companies and has been instrumental in Cipla's strategic growth. He is not only a brilliant professionally, but has also contributed a lot towards patient care and is a great supporter of our social cause. Before he addresses us, let's watch a short film on Cipla's social initiatives.
way back in 97, when Dr. Hamid understood the magnitude of pain and cancer, he was compelled to work towards it. And he felt that even though we may not have a cure for people, is there any way where care can go the last mile?
टेस्ट केल्यानंतर आम्हाला कळालं की शी इज सफरिंग फ्रॉम 3rd स्टेज ऑफ कॅन्सर. नंतर डे बाय डे ती जास्त सफर होत होती प्रॉब्लेम्समध्ये. तिला तो पेन सहन होत नव्हता. ती रात्र रात्र जागत होती. शेवटी माझ्या फ्रेंडनी सजेस्ट केलं की आपण सिप्लामध्ये येऊयात, कारण तो एक बेस्ट ऑप्शन आहे पेनलेस राहण्यासाठी.
Dr. Hamid was very keen that since family is so integral to our life here in India, that the palliative care center that he was building be built around the concept of a family. And so from the very beginning, it was understood that you would come here and your family would come with you.
She's admitted with bilateral lower limb pain and dyspnea. Pain score is almost 4/10.
The most remarkable thing here is the multidisciplinary approach to medicine. When you come here, you are here with an entire team that takes care of you and your family. Whether it's your pain management, your diet, your physiotherapy, your social and emotional needs. It's comprehensive, it's holistic, and most importantly, it doesn't begin at the end of your life. It begins at the time of your diagnosis.
सकाळी उठून रेडी झाल्यानंतर एव्हरी डे त्यांच्या एक नवीन ऍक्टिव्हिटी असतात. त्याच्यामध्ये ते तुम्हाला इन्स्पायर करतात की तुम्ही अजून कसं हॅपीली राहू शकता. तुम्ही फक्त त्या 4 भिंतींच्या आतमध्ये तुमचं आयुष्य नाहीये. जस्ट कम अँड ओपन युअर सेल्फ.
Awards are named after flowers, but we felt that award for children should be named after a tree. So it's called the Gulmohar Award, and I think that there are 2 patients, kids and their mom. There's so much you learn about being happy and enjoying their toys and having fun and fulfilling last wishes, making sure that everyone leaves with a sense of peace and strength for the next day.
Has anybody heard about palliative care?
What we're really expanding is our training. So we are training doctors and nurses across India, and by investing in that training, we're making hundreds of CPCs, because it's not about bricks and mortar, it's about the people that are taking care of their patients where they need to be, either at home or at a center. It's a place of peace where you can come and spend, whether it's your final moments or difficult moments during your illness, and be surrounded by a team that cares for you with a lot of warmth and with a lot of love.
I now invite Mr. Umang Vohra to join us from USA to share his thoughts. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think this is just an absolute thrill to see the work that the Indian Cancer Society has done over so many years. And thank you for playing this screen shot on Cipla palliative care. I have to thank Romana and the entire team there. If you go into the palliative care, the energy is very different. And I think that is what we regard. I think at Cipla, we like to believe that a patient is not a consumer. A patient is somebody's father, somebody's mother, husband, wife, or child. And that's the ethos that the company was founded on. So I've had lots of personal experiences in dealing with various people who volunteer for the ICS. Some of them have been aunts. Some of them I've had the privilege of meeting. I can say they're very, very strong people, very strong mothers, very strong wives, and they've been the pillar of several families that I know that have done well. And thank you for all the work that you do on a day-to-day basis. I think my own personal story in dealing with cancer in my family has been one where the 3 things that matter the most are hope, support, and the person's willpower. So I think these are the three things as messages that I took away from an episode of cancer that I had in my family. And I think the story is the same pretty much across families that have dealt with this. And I think the work that you do at the Indian Cancer Society creates that support, gives that hope, creates the willpower within the person, but is also that much more loving and caring. And it's very difficult to do that. And I'd like to acknowledge this. Your work makes the difference. Please keep on doing it. So as we sit here, and I've heard Dr. Rama and wonderful, Sonali is always effusive with confidence, effusive with positivity. And I was just going through my mind, and I said, this is such a beautiful place to start talking about the hope we see for cancer going forward. And I'd like to just leave maybe a couple of thoughts with all of you. I think we're at a juncture in science, and I'm going to talk about 4 to 5 things that I think are going to define the way science is going to move here. And also the fact that this is going to look a lot better in the future as it has, from what it has in the past. So the first thing I want to talk about is therapies. There is a huge pipeline of drugs that is pending regulatory approval all over the world. The good thing about these drugs, first of all, I wish everyone has good health. But if we are challenged with this illness, it's the responsibility of companies such as ours to be making sure that there are medicines available to deal with the situations that present themselves through patients. The pipeline of drugs today are all targeted therapies. 70-80% of pipeline of drugs are targeted therapies, which means, A, that they will only go to areas that need the drug, and therefore the patient where you're trying to, where you generally, most cancer care tries to kill a lot of cells in the body as a way of caring and curing a patient. I think this is going to change. We will have more targeted therapies. I would also look at gene editing and gene therapy as a very large emerging area in the area of science. And actually, I think if gene therapy has promise, and it will have so for some cancers versus the others, it could redefine cancer care. So there's a lot of hope in the pipeline of drugs that we are looking at in the industry. The second thing that I would like to talk about is diagnosis. There's going to be huge step changes. Imaging is going to be more rapid. Imaging is going to tell a lot more about cancers. Biopsies are going to be less invasive. Right? Biopsies are going to be more accurate, less invasive. And this is another big trend we're seeing, which provides a lot of hope to be able to diagnose and screen patients faster and better. The third are changes in nutrition. I think one of the biggest things with cancer patients has always been the type of nutrition they get. And I know of several companies across the world that have taken this as their main objective in making sure that nutrition is packed, made smaller, and made more convenient for cancer care patients. So I think this is a big advance. I think it'll go a long way in providing hope to so many other families and so many patients who are struggling with cancer. I'd also like to talk about this whole journey that the world and all of us as individuals need to make. This journey is a journey of moving from illness to wellness. And there are several examples and several parts that come together in this. The government of India, through its Ayushman Bharat coverage of insurance, has struck exactly the right chord. We have noticed out of products that we sell that every time a family is able to afford a product in India for cancer care, the number of patients treated and diagnosed increases significantly. So Ayushman Bharat is definitely a big scheme. Providing 5 lakhs of medical cover to every family is very big. But what is needed more is just the way the access in the country for diagnosis, the access in the country for medicines needs to move. India is a very complicated country. We don't see this level of complexity and logistics just because of our sheer size in many different parts of the world. But the whole hub and spoke model of primary healthcare centers becoming diagnosis hubs or early screening hubs for referrals to a hub at a different place for more adequate diagnosis, I think is the way to go for cancer care in India. So I would like to talk about this particular journey of being able to take diagnosis deeper, of being able to make this transition through nutrition from illness to wellness, so people getting more concerned about their own conditions and being covered through insurance as big things that would help the future of cancer care in India. I also want to talk about some trends that we are seeing early in the world, which I think hold promise for India as well. We are seeing a huge number of subcutaneous forms of injection versus the regular infusions. You know, the infusions are problematic. They cure a lot, but they are in one center and they take very long. And sub-Q injections are generally faster. They're able to kind of dispel care a lot deeper. The other thing that I would like to talk about is also this whole thing of taking the Graston injections at home. So there's this new device in the US where, you know, most cancer patients have to go day 2, day 3 to take Graston, right, which increases your cell count. I think there is now adequate data, and the trend that seems to be shifting is that these injections can now be administered at home, obviously under the proper supervision of a medical practitioner. But I would like to think that, you know, if that happens, that reduces the load in our hospitals. It increases the amount of time doctors can spend with patients. So I have a lot of hope on how cancer care is going to change. I have a lot of hope in just the future of this therapy, and I have a lot of hope in the work that ICS will continue to do. At CIPLA, we will play our part. Palliation is very close to us. We will continue to do that. We will also continue to further the progress of making sure that diagnosis is done early, that patients are covered. We will even have a small scheme of insurance, and it's quite interesting because, you know, insurance doesn't cover you when you're diagnosed with an illness if you don't have insurance earlier, right? And we've launched something where people can avail of a staggered payment time the moment they come to realize that they've had a diagnosis of cancer, right? And I'd just like to leave these thoughts that I think that the future is very bright around these 4 key themes of having the right targeted therapies, of having the right support structure which allows us to move illness to wellness. And I think ICS is a fundamental strong part of that arm, of diagnosis improving and nutrition improving. And I wish everybody good health, COVID or no COVID. The spirit of human enterprise must survive. We must overcome everything like we do as families and as individuals. So thank you, the Indian Cancer Society. Thank you, every volunteer there. Thank you, every doctor. On behalf of CIPLA, on behalf of the society at large, thank you for doing all the work that you did. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Umang Vohra. That was really nice, very encouraging. We are so happy to know of all the advances that are going to take place. At least our patients will suffer less and will be cured on time. Thank you so much. God bless you. Colonel Toma? No act of kindness, however small, is wasted. This slide shows you the list of our donors and also our bank account details of ICS Delhi. We help out a large number of patients, so please donate generously. Be a symbol of hope for those who are in need. We do a lot of work for our patients. We would like to do more. Please help us to help them better. Thank you so much. I now request 2 of our volunteers, Mrs. Seema Bajaj and Mrs. Kiran Jetli, to release the much awaited brochure. Mrs. Seema Bajaj has been instrumental in bringing out this very informative brochure, which comes out each year during the annual seminar. Over to Seema and Kiran.
Well, hello everybody. I'm so much happy to bring the brochure out this year as well. What does this brochure have? It has information about what we have done this year. This has been one seminar into 3 webinars. So you're going to see 3 times as much glamour. You're going to see 3 times as much educative information from our panelists. And you're going to see 3 times as many winners to emulate. We're also going to have donors list, sponsors, a bit of what Sayog does, and pictorials of last year's seminar and Survivor Speak. Thank you. God bless you.
Kiran, are you there?
Yes, very much, very much.
Yes.
It is with good evening, friends. It is with great pleasure that on this very special day, the third session of the on-air annual ICS seminar, I have the honor of presenting you with the first time ever e-brochure, which you just saw, which Seema just presented all of us, produced by Cancer Sahyog, the hospital support group of ICS. Now, Seema has told you, has just mentioned the various things that are there in the brochure. But the most important thing is that Seema Bajaj herself has been a very committed person to committing to actually making sure that the entire content of all our annual seminars is very succinctly communicated through the brochures. And this time, Seema, a great credit to you, an e-brochure. The e-brochure link is being given to everyone online, and it will also be available on the ICS website. It also contains a very important list, a list of all our sponsors and their ads, a list of all our donors. All these are well-wishers without whose support all of us would not have been able to be here together. Thank you.
Thank you, Seema and Kiran. And please, all of you take out time to read this e-brochure. The link would be sent to you, and you can also see it on our website. A woman loses her life to cervical cancer. It's a tragedy that can be easily prevented. We have with us today Brigadier Dr. Biswas, who is an Associate Director, Gynae Onco Surgery at Max Institute Hospital, Saket. He specializes in lap and robotic surgery. He has varied experience both at army and civil hospitals all over the country. Welcome, Brigadier Biswas.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Rita Bhalla, for having me here in this part of this webinar. Till now, the webinar has been excellent, and my association with Indian Cancer Society and Cancer Sahyog goes way down to 2003, 2004. And I would, really like to thank Mrs. Renuka Prasad and you, of course, who have been there, and also my association has been with Mr. Ghosh, where way back we had done so many programs with the NCC cadets, and for the awareness of cancer. So it's a pleasure to be in this forum today. So if I would just share my screen.
Yes.
So taking this topic along of enigma of cancer, today I would give you an overview of cervical, vaginal, and vulval cancer, and a little bit talk about the palliative care, which has already been spoken about by Mr. Vora. So cervical cancer, as you know, is one which occurs in the cells of the cervix, and this cervix is a part of the uterus, which has been told again and again, is the lower part of the uterus that connects to the vagina. It is the one gynecological cancer which is completely preventable. In fact, among many cancers, this is one cancer which is completely preventable. And even though there has been talk that so much has been spoken about cervical cancer, but all the talks are less, because you can, or we all together can bring it to zero incidence. That is what is when we talk about cervical cancer. And why is it so? Because there are so many levels of preventive methodologies, and it's treatable too. Early detection has very good chances of cure. And how does it all happen? It happens because of education, awareness, which you know which the organizations like yours are spreading. And of course, nothing can go ahead without the political will of the country. So we have the primary prevention. Today, as you all know, we have the HPV vaccine. 10 years ago, I used to participate in many of the debates of whether it's safe or it's unsafe, about the HPV vaccine. But today, its benefits are well proven and there are no safety concerns. So we have three types of vaccine. We have the bivalent vaccine, which just known to prevent the cervical cancer. The quadrivalent vaccine, which along with the prevention of cervical cancer can also prevent genital warts. And a new nonavalent vaccine, which further has prevention against various more types of strains of HPV virus, and thereby prevention of other types of genital warts too. So here is an important information. This vaccine is supposed to be given at an early age. There is a 2-dose schedule, which is between the age of 9 to 14 years, which is given at 0 and 6 months. Once a girl crosses 14 years, then there is a 3-dose schedule. Or those with some amount of immunocompromised status, they also need a 3-dose schedule. So what is important to realize today is the changing sexual norms. That is why the Indian Pediatric Association also has recommended dosing of HPV vaccine between the age of 9 to 14 years, because efficacy reduces if taken after sexual exposure. But it's still slightly effective in preventing the occurrence of precancerous lesions and genital warts, even when taken after sexual exposure. Then we have the secondary prevention. All of us know that screening for cervical cancer is trusted and proven. And how do we do it? We have the visual inspection by acetic acid. Thus, we apply chemicals onto the cervix and see for any color changes and identify those areas which may have undergone a precancerous change. Then, of course, the age-old trusted pap smear. As we just heard, we have the Delhi pap smear drive. So brushings and smear from the cells of the cervix are taken and examined at regular intervals. So what is recommended is intervals of 3 years from the age of 21 to 65. There was a question regarding at what age should it start. So the recommendation is from age of 21. Many recommend that after marriage, it should start. Then, of course, we have the direct HPV testing, which is available nowadays. And when we do a co-test along with the pap smear, it reduces the frequency of screening to once in 5 years. And one has to be careful because HPV testing is recommended only after the age of 35 years. If we do HPV testing before 35 years, many cases would come out positive, and that would create a confusion because with the body's immunity, most women would become HPV negative after the age of 35 years. Prevention. So it's the third level of prevention also. The abnormal areas which are detected, let's say by VIA or by pap smear and by colposcopy, they can be ablated by using cryotherapy, or those areas can be completely excised by a procedure which is commonly called a loop excision procedure, or by doing a cone biopsy. The picture which you see here is of a leap or a loop excision biopsy. And an interesting fact is the culprit area of the cervix, which is called the transformation zone, can be completely removed by the limited excisional procedure. And this is the zone which harbors the cancer, and that zone would be gone forever if this is excised in time. Well, there are certain special points. Practicing safe sex reduces the risk of cervical cancer by taking measures to prevent sexually transmitted infection, such as using a condom and limiting the number of sexual partners. And don't smoke. If you don't smoke, don't start. If you do smoke, try to quit. There is a direct link between smoking and cervical cancer. And yes, regular screening picks up early invasive cancer, thereby downstaging the disease when treated. And this affects in cure. So it's not clear what causes cervical cancer exactly, but it is certain that human papilloma virus plays a role, and that's why the vaccine against it. But all women who have HPV do not develop cervical cancer, which brings us to the conclusion that there are other factors such as environment or lifestyle choices, which will determine whether one will develop the cervical cancer or not. So therefore, there are risk factors: women with many sexual partners, early sexual activity. Yes, there was this question which was asked in the beginning that uh, a, a woman says that her husband, her maid's husband has got many sexual partners, and whether that would affect her. Yes, if the spouse also has many sexual partners, there are chances that the woman would also have a higher chance of cervical cancer. Then sexually transmitted infection, a weakened immune system, and smoking, just as I told you. So how do we diagnose cervical cancer? Most cancers are diagnosed by biopsy, and biopsy of cervical cancer can be targeted by the VIA, that's by putting the chemical and seeing the color change and taking a biopsy from that. Then by colposcopy, or you can take out some curettings from inside the cervical canal, or there could be just a frank ulcerative lesion on the cervix from which a biopsy can be taken visually. Once a biopsy is taken, imaging is done and one assesses that how much the cancer has spread and thereby staging the disease. Here comes the importance of a gynecological examination. It's extremely important that a gynecologist or a gynae oncologist examines you, and along with that, the imaging studies like CT, MRI, and PET scan will help in staging the disease, because further to it, treatment and management depends upon the stage of cervical cancer. And during surgery, a further staging can be done nowadays by doing sentinel node biopsy, which we at our center at Max, we do it regularly, and by a special pathology called ultra staging. The treatment options, without going into much of a detail, there are surgical procedures like simple hysterectomy or removal of the uterus. There could be a radical hysterectomy, and very important because this cancer can affect younger women. And so we have fertility sparing procedures as well, when this cancer is detected at a very early stage. Many of the women with this cancer would be treated by radiation therapy, which could be external or it could be internal, and mostly a combination of both. There could be a combined chemotherapy and radiation therapy. And
It's 6 o'clock.
And in a later stage, there could be treatment only with chemotherapy. Nowadays, of course, we have further treatment with targeted drug therapy and immunotherapy. As I was telling you that I was associated with this, with Indian Cancer Society since 2003, 2004, and I remember the first forum in which I spoke in this society was at India Habitat Center, where Javed Akhtar ji was the chief guest, and where we spoke about cervical cancer and survivors' sexual dilemma. I do not know if
Yes, so quite right. Quite right.
Renuka ji would remember this. And that is where I would just put in a little part of that, that when we have the radiation changes, that leads to vaginal stenosis and dryness and narrowing of vagina, and which makes vaginal examination and vaginal intercourse very difficult and uncomfortable for the woman. And similar changes can occur following radiotherapy for cancer of the endometrium, cancer of the vagina, and even colorectal cancers. So for that, vaginal dilators are available, and this is women's empowerment. Start using the dilator about 6 to 8 weeks after completion of radiation treatment. That is what is recommended. And it's recommended to use for 10 minutes every day for life. And this should be covered with condom and jelly. Dilatation dosage and dilator size, this may vary from patient to patient and from time to time. What is also important is sexual counseling. Along with the vaginal dilatation exercises, the onco-occupational therapist and the psychologist also focuses on sexual health. And patients advise not to stop having physical relationship. Patients and partners' insecurity also must be addressed at this time. So this is just a very small part of what I spoke about in 2004. A word about vaginal cancer. This is a rare cancer that occurs in the vagina. Most commonly occurs in the cells that line the surface of the vagina. So now this can be seen from the diagram which is there on the slide. The facts are, a diagnosis of early stage vaginal cancer has a best chance for cure, because this cancer, when it spreads beyond the vagina, is much more difficult to treat. Why this cancer occurs is not clear. However, there are certain unavoidable risk factors, and there are certain risk factors which can be avoided. Increasing age, well, that's not avoidable. More of this cancer is seen in women who are older than 60 years. Then there are atypical cells in the vagina which are called vaginal and intraepithelial neoplasia, the same as we see in cervix when we have a precancerous lesion. So there is precancerous lesion of the vagina. Certain risk factors are there, like multiple sexual partners, early age at first intercourse, smoking, and HIV infection. There is no sure way to prevent vaginal cancer, but it may be reduced if one goes for undergoing regular pelvic examination and pap test. I found one thing very good, when I can just tell you, when I was, went on a posting in the services to Bangalore, the Air Force Hospital, where everywhere there used to be an annual medical examination of men, which is compulsory in the armed forces, But there we started, why not the wives have also an annual medical examination? And that's the importance of undergoing a regular examination, where PAP and pelvic and ECG, depending upon the age, would be started and done. HPV vaccine also reduces the chance of HPV related vaginal cancer. So ask the doctor whether an HPV vaccine is appropriate for you. And of course, avoid smoking. Early vaginal cancer may not cause any signs and symptoms as it progresses. It may cause, this is important, unusual vaginal bleeding after intercourse or after menopause, watery vaginal discharge. There could be a lump or mass in the vagina, painful or frequent urination. A woman can experience constipation or even pelvic pain. Diagnosis is again by biopsy, and it could be colposcopy guided. The gynecologist oncologist reviews all the treatment options and chooses the best one for the patient. Treatment is by surgical procedures. There could be a small area which could be, lasered. An excision could be done. Otherwise, a part of the vagina may be removed, or a complete vagina may have to be removed along with the removal of lymph nodes. But it's also important to note that many of the women in whom the vagina is removed, there is a possibility of reconstructive surgery. Many cases which are little more advanced would be treated by radiation, and this radiation could be a combination of external and internal radiation and also chemotherapy. So at a cancer center, gynecologic oncologist, radiation and medical oncologists, and the plastic surgeons work as a multidisciplinary team to care for people with vaginal cancer. Vulvar cancer, a few slides on that. This cancer occurs on the outer surface area of the female genitalia. The vulva, as you know, is the area of the skin that surrounds the urethra. That is the place from where the urine is voided, and vagina, including the clitoris and the labia. Labia are the lips-like structures on either side of the vaginal opening. So come some common facts. Commonly, a vulval cancer would start as a lump or sore on the vulva that often causes itching. And most commonly, it's diagnosed in older adults. So a lesion on the vulva where it's chronically starts itching and it's not healing, it's turning into an ulcer, and commonly, one applies steroid creams and other creams, and it's just not healing. It's time one must show to the gynecologist or to the gynec oncologist, and what is done is a biopsy is immediately taken to exclude cancer. So treatment usually involves surgery. Earlier the vulval cancer is diagnosed, the less likely an extensive surgery is needed for this treatment. So what are the symptoms? Just like I told you, itching that doesn't go away. There could be pain and tenderness, bleeding that isn't from menstruation. There could be skin changes such as color changes. There could be, depigmentation, some whitish discoloration of the vulva, some new discoloration which is coming up as the age, increases, or a lump or a wart-like bumps or an open sore. So that is when one should get suspicious. These could be the early signs, early warning signs for a woman to go and show to the doctor. The exact cause again of vulval cancer is not known. Some risk factors are increasing age. Mostly these cancers occur after the age of 65. If a woman is exposed to human papilloma virus, just like cervix and vagina, smoking again has a role. A weak immune system, a history of a precancerous lesion in the vulva, just like a vaginal precancerous lesion or a cervical precancerous lesion, and some skin conditions which involve the vulva like lichen sclerosis, they can also be a predisposing cause for a vulval cancer. So how do you prevent? Very difficult, but limiting exposure to HPV, more the number of sexual partners, more the chances. Use of condom may decrease the risk, and appropriate use in certain individuals with HPV vaccine, again, ask your doctor if it's appropriate, may decrease the chances of vulval cancer. The treatment options are surgery, a part of the area of the ulcer with a normal area is removed. When this cancer spreads and involves the entire vulval area, the whole of the vulval area has to be removed by surgery. So remember, this has a deep impact, a deep psychological impact on the woman. Having a vulval area removed has a tremendous psychological impact on the woman. That's where the role of reconstructive surgeons come in. And many of the women would also be treated by radiation and chemotherapy. So a vulval cancer, in fact, may appear small, but that is the one which really requires treatment at an experienced cancer center, where we make utmost effort to preserve the cosmetic appearance and function of the vulva, even after, this kind of a defacing surgery. And there is a multidisciplinary team, again, with gynec oncology, radiation oncologists, medical oncologists, and plastic surgeons. So that brings us to an end with the gynae cancers. Here is a word on palliative care, a little extension to what Mr. Vora said. As you know, cancer causes symptoms and its treatment may have some side effects. An important part of the cancer treatment is taking care of the symptoms. So it's very important to comfort the patient at all times, and comforting the patient improves the quality of life all through the diagnosis, treatment, and beyond. So it's very important. And this comforting is called the palliative care or supportive oncology. What is important to note is that it starts at the time of diagnosis, continues at the time of treatment, and beyond that. Palliative care alleviates and relieves physical symptoms like pain, nausea, vomiting, and fatigue. It supports patient and his or her family for emotional, social, and spiritual needs. Treatment for the disease at the same time also continues and goes hand in hand. And it's seen that people who receive both treatment, that is the palliative care part, as well as the per se treatment for the cancer, have a better quality of life. How do you get palliative care? One may request for it or one may be referred. And the team consists of doctors, nurses, social workers, pharmacists, dietitians, physical and occupational therapists, psychologists, and you may have a religious teacher also in the team. The palliative services can be given as an outpatient, as an inpatient, and also at a home care. The goals of palliative care are to integrate the psychological and spiritual aspects of patient care. It offers a support system to help the patient live as actively as possible. And it also offers a support system to help the family cope up during the patient's illness and in their own bereavement. That's where Sonali just mentioned about the caregivers, how one can give support to the caregivers too. So is palliative care same as terminal care? Very frequent question. No, it's not only terminal care or only for dying, but it certainly includes terminal care. And is palliative care only for cancer? No, it's not that. It also includes patients who are who have AIDS or who have chronic respiratory disease, chronic heart diseases, end-stage kidney diseases like renal failures, chronic pain states, chronic neurological diseases like Alzheimer's, quadriplegia, or paraplegia. All can get palliative care. A very small clip on palliative care for you.
You are a bridge. It's true, or at least it's a good analogy. When you're healthy, when the bridge is sound, you can handle anything. Cars, trucks, trains, all the bumps of life, no problem. You are set. But if you're facing a serious health issue, something like kidney disease, lung disease, or cancer, the bridge starts to falter, cracks appear, and pretty soon it's hard to withstand all that traffic that includes your own medical treatment. And that's where palliative care comes in. Palliative care is a specialized form of medical care, specifically designed for people with serious illnesses. Its main goal is to improve your quality of life by providing relief from the symptoms, pain, and stress that are an inevitable byproduct of both the disease and the medical intervention. In short, palliative care provides support for your bridge. And when a bridge is in trouble, there is nothing better. Now, palliative care, just like construction, is a team effort. It takes doctors, nurses, social workers, and other specialists all working together with your physician to realize that extra layer, the layer that can make all the difference. It's a treatment method that makes sense at any stage of life and at any stage of an illness, because it's never too late to lessen the burden. So, next time someone you care about is facing a serious illness, remember this bridge analogy and be sure to consider the enormous potential of palliative care.
Thank you so much, and I really appreciate and like this quote, the conquest of cancer by choice, not chance. That's why the Indian Cancer Society. Thank you.
Thank you, Brigadier Biswas. Your presentation was excellent and you explained everything in such a simple manner. That was truly a great informative session for us, and it has made us realize that after all, it's not so difficult to keep cervical cancer at bay. So let's fight it and let's put an end to cervical cancer. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Life is a precious gift. Unfortunately, one doesn't realize it until one is fighting to stay alive. We have with us a very beautiful, young, vivacious girl, Miss Tanisha Dhingra, who not only fought but conquered cancer when she was just 23. Optimism and a very positive attitude surely helped our brave Tanisha emerge winner. She works dedicatedly for Google and passionately for the cancer cause. Over to Tanisha.
Thank you, everyone. Hi, I'm so glad that I'm here, and it has been a lovely session hearing all the doctors and Mr. Vora from CIPLA. It's so nice to be here. I'm just going to share my screen. Just give me 1 minute. So I am going to be talking about my journey with cancer and what all I've learned in that process as well, especially post diagnosis. So as everyone knows that my name is Tanisha Dhingra and I'm currently 27 years old and I work for Google. It was in February 2016 that I fell ill with an unbearable lower abdomen pain. Few tests and a laparoscopic biopsy indicated that I had something critical to deal with. By March, I found myself sitting in front of the doctor. I remember every minute of that day so very distinctly. All I could think about was the pain and how adamant it was that it was just not going away. There I was, a 23-year-old, just diagnosed with stage 3 metastatic ovarian cancer. I remember how the news just didn't sink in. I cried for hours. It took me a while to even fathom the magnitude of his words. There was so much left to do. There were so many people I wanted to meet, so many places I wanted to visit, a list of experiences I wanted to complete. And I wondered at that moment, would I even get a chance to do any of those things? I was immediately rushed to MD Anderson Cancer Center in Houston, Texas, and I was advised numerous sessions of chemotherapy, followed by a surgery to remove my orange-sized tumors, followed by 3 more sessions of chemotherapy. I had no prior exposure or knowledge about cancer. In fact, I didn't even know anyone who had cancer. This made me fear the big C even more. But before I could even comprehend the gravity of the situation or even understand what was happening with me, therapy had started. According to statistics, ovarian cancer is diagnosed in 250,000 patients every year, and it causes death in 60% of them. Only 3.8% of these women are within the age group of 20 to 34. Mathematically, that is just 9,500 women in the world. Needless to say, it was a rare case, and I turned out to be one in a million. The only thing that I kept telling myself, just like how Sonali shared, was that I don't want pity and I just don't want any sympathy. I will go through it and I will go through it strongly. Believe it or not, I considered myself to be the chosen one to fight this and inspire everyone through my journey. And that optimism only led me in the right direction. My chemo cycles were scheduled for every 3 weeks. I would constantly throw up for 6 to 7 days, be drowsy, have constant body aches, migraines. And that time I remember telling myself, come on, Tanisa, 5 more days to go. Come on, 4 more days to go, 3 more to go. I would just take everything one day at a time. And that's when I would realize, oh, the week is over. That's when I understood that this is more a battle of the mind than it is of the physical self. Soon I started realizing that I cannot make cancer my life, and I began to distract myself. Between my chemos, I visited Vegas. I saw the Broadway shows in New York, the Grand Canyon. I ate the famous deep dish pizza in Chicago. I shopped in Austin and saw the Riverwalk in San Antonio. I gifted myself a series of dreams whilst I was in the nightmare. It made me realize that perseverance and a strong desire can help you achieve your dreams even when you're at your lowest. Hair fall was one of the toughest things that I had to deal with. And just like any other young girl who had black, long, thick hair, I took extreme pride in it. I thought not having hair would make me feel naked. I waited and waited till all my hair would fall off and I didn't shave it. Till the time I had a huge bald patch, and I had no option but to shave it. When I actually got my head shaved, within seconds, I realized that I was the same person. Nothing about me had changed. My thoughts, my beliefs, everything was the same. Going bald made me realize that physical appearance is so trivial. It's the inner beauty that radiates itself. We have more to us than just our visual appeal. I even went ahead and did a bald is beautiful photo shoot for an organization to embrace my new self. After 3 cycles of chemo, my scans showed that my chemo was futile. My tumors had doubled in size and my kidney function was getting adversely impacted as well. The doctor recommended immediate surgery. The cancer had spread so much that we could not do a robotic surgery and they had to fully open me up. On the day of the surgery, I got my routine blood test, and that showed that I had exceedingly low blood counts and I could not be operated upon. This meant that I had to get blood transfusion and delay my surgery further by 3 more weeks and worsen my condition. At that time, again, I had two options. I could be extremely upset, cry over this, or pity what I was going through, or I would not let this bother me. And I chose the latter. The very same day, I attended and I even danced at my new neighbor's party, which I would have otherwise missed had I had the surgery. A lotus never blooms without muddy water. There is no point of a life without obstacles. We're all here to live and not exist. Each moment is too precious to waste, and each day is 24 hours more worth of a life that we should all cherish. A night before the surgery, my parents took me out in order to cheer me and calm me down. But of course, I was far from it. You know, chemo is really hard, but imagine going into a room, being unconscious for 8 to 10 hours, and not knowing if you would ever come back. That is a completely different game. And again, in my head, I started thinking of the things I want to do after I would get okay, the places I want to visit. And that's when I promised my parents that I would see them on the other side. And after 8 hours, I made it. Post the surgery, I stayed in the hospital for another month. I learned how to stand up, I learned how to eat, I learned how to walk. And as you can see, I did live through all those sessions of chemo and ill health only to realize that all of us over here have so much to be grateful for. The fact that our health doesn't act as a hurdle every day when we wake up. The privilege of eating whatever we wish to whenever we want. आज थोड़ा मीठा खा लेते हैं तो हम खा लेते हैं. Or that we're not dependent on another human being for those routine tasks. You don't have anyone to take you to the washroom. You don't need anyone to take a walk around the park. But there was a situation where I needed someone. This is something that I have stopped taking for granted. I came home a different person. My outlook had changed. I had a completely positive outlook. Cancer gave me perspective and it made me fearless. In today's world, we can see people are constantly worried about small things. अरे यार ये काम कैसे खत्म होगा? अरे उसने मुझे ये बोल दिया, मेरी लाइफ इतनी खराब हो गई है. You know, everyone is just wound up in that. But I can tell you that from losing hair to actually being on the verge of losing life itself, I have realized the essence of life. That if I have made it, if I'm alive, if I'm happy, there is a reason and there is a purpose to each one of our lives. And for me, it is to give back to those cancer patients. I began organizing events for cancer patients to help them lead a life of normalcy and enjoy those small moments. We have art and laughter therapy, yoga, music, and dance. We also do makeover for women and also a Bald is Beautiful photo shoot to give them the confidence back. We've done over 5 events, and a lot of them have been with Indian Cancer Society, and each one of them has been attended by over 100 patients and caregivers. All of the events have been covered in national news. I also started writing articles about my own journey, speaking at various schools and corporates for cancer awareness, because I know that this is the least I can do. In the end, I just want to leave you with my favorite line, and that is it is okay to not be okay, to accept problems. Everyone has problems, to accept them and to move on, and have gratitude for every little thing that you have in your life, and never ever lose that smile. Thank you.
Anisha, my dear, you are truly the chosen one. Though I would like to say, Cancer, you have picked up the wrong person. Thank you, Tanisha, for
Thank you.
inspiring us all. May God bless you always. Thank you. I now request Director Hospitals, Mrs. Rashmi Vohra, to please give the vote of thanks.
Yeah. We heard so much. Brain, of course, brain is a master of all our activities. Life can certainly be much better if we act accordingly to the wise words of the eminent speakers today, who have enlightened us today's seminar in the series of webinars. It gives me an immense pleasure at the annual event and to thank all the speakers and participants who made this webinar a great success. Let me begin by thanking the most beautiful and popular actress and a beautiful girl, Sonali Bhedre, who had joined the elite brand of winners of Big C. Her words of wisdom have enlightened all of us regarding the fight of cancer with her and her willpower. We wish her an excellent health and a great future in film's world again. Big thanks to Dr. Rama Joshi, who is HOD Gynae Oncology at FMRI Gurgaon, a brilliant robotic surgeon who has so much to the credit of saving many lives. She is indeed a real beauty with superb beauty. She is a woman of substance. We are very thankful to Brigadier Dr. Manish Bishwas, who enriched our information about gynae and gynae cancer, cervical, vaginal, all cancers. We are extremely thankful to Mr. Umang Bora, my Raja Beta, who is a global CEO, whose presence in the forum is an indication of the firm ties that ICS and CIPLA share. We are very impressed with young, sweet Tanisha. We just heard her. My God, I salute her. What a little girl. She has taught us so much. She is the bravest of the brave who has won the battle against cancer, and she's inspired all of us. Now, the thanks to all our own people who have worked so much. I would like to thank Mrs. Seema Bajaj for doing a great job of the souvenir, which she does every year in a beautiful way. We are thankful to all the sponsors, donors, all our volunteers who worked very hard, and all the office staff who are always tirelessly working and the committee workers of the Cancer Sayog. Our big thanks and the guiding forces of Mrs. Josna Govind, Chairperson of our ICS, and Honorary Secretary Mr. Renuka Prasad, Director Sayog Dita Bhalla, and the team of Cancer Sayog for making it a big success. Now, time for tea. I wish I could treat you for a nice cup of tea. God bless you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
So, ladies and gentlemen, with this we come to
No, 1 minute. We want to show a slide. Yeah. A slide. Yeah. Here are the bank account details once again. We adopt a large number of patients each year. The money you donate helps one patient, but it eases the pain of the entire family. Please donate generously and be rest assured that funds would be very well spent. Thank you so much, all of you. Life isn't about waiting for the storm to pass. It's about dancing in the rain. With this happy thought, today's session comes to an end. Hope you found it useful, educative, and stimulating. I now request Mrs. Renuka Prasad to wrap up our digital annual seminar. Over to you.
Well, good evening once again. Well, the wrapping up means that this is really wrapping up, because this completes our series of Enigma of Cancer. This is the third and final in the series on gynec cancers. And I think it has been very, very well received. All our webinars have been really well received, according to us at least. And I'm sure with the remarks that we see in the chat box, these are also your reactions. And we do try and get back to you every time. We have responded to those who have given their questions, because it really leaves very little time